Also, I got some stems or limbs off of some trees when I was at work the other day. I got a mulberry there, magnolia, and then this is sugar maple here. These two, sugar maple or what you would call hard maple. And then that's just a cherry tree. That's grown up on its own, but it needed some help, but I don't even think it's fully connected. Well, yeah, he is. See, the thing is, when you tie up trees like this, you don't need to make the ties really tight. You need to have play in it, that way then it won't fully collapse. Because if you have it tight to something that does not move, your root system won't go as deep or wide for stability of the tree. So it's best to just keep it loose, that way then it doesn't tip all the way over, and then it can have a good set of root system for it. But also found this fluorescent orange spray paint at the junkyard, and threw it in my toolbox and went around and just marked my trees. This is my sycamore here. Doing pretty good. And with it being almost dark, you can really see that paint. So I like that a lot. So I've got this shagbark hickory right here. He's finally got a bud coming out, so that's sweet. And I've got a pal that I need to burn, but it's kind of windy right now. There's a storm coming in. And I've just been sawing some more trees down. I got the MS 250 out here. So here's my walnut here. And this right here is a sweet gum that I felled the other day. It was all wrapped up in vines, but I did cut the top out of this walnut here because I think he had X'd over, or either he was the limb that went straight down and then out to the sun. So I cut him, and look at all the buds that he's got coming out. It's blooming nice. Then we got this one. And then we got this one right here that's done good. Which this is a pecan, I believe. And then we got another pecan. It's right here. And then look at this Chinese privet that I'm cutting all back. So I did a bunch of this just this evening. So I've got a really good amount of space right here. So I've got this pecan here, a small pecan right there, and that's at least a 20 to 25 foot span. And then I'll say maybe 12, 14 feet here, I did put a sycamore, but this one's not doing so well. So we'll see. We're about to get some rain, so that's gonna be really nice. Just in time, because I had just watered everything 2 weeks ago, so this Monday. Today's Friday. This Monday I would have watered all my trees, but since it's gonna rain this weekend, all weekend, I won't have to, so I marked down for the next 2 weeks. And I also got the van tinted, which I think I showed in another video, but she is dark now. I just gotta do the windshield now. Check this guy out. Is he dumping seeds? What is he, Buster? Oh, let me. If anybody knows what this is, leave it in the comments. I mean, I reckon it's a moth, but he's wicked looking. Here's a little update on my trees. So this is the walnut that I picked over there by my mom's mimosa tree. And as you can see, he's blooming out. And then this is that black walnut that I've had for a while. And I don't remember what this was, but I picked it and replanted it, and it just, you know, it didn't live at all. So I don't know if I should just ditch it or let it be for a little while and see if it will grow back. But all of my swamp chestnut oak just came out with new leaves. I've got a little red cedar right here. And then this is supposedly a pin oak. So, and he's grown a whole lot. Alright guys, I haven't done any research, but I had these sweet gums cut up. I don't know when. I think it's been at least 9 days since I've cut them up. And I think I immediately stored them in the garage right here in this section. Well, they're starting to get black mold on them, so I'm gonna transfer them outside, and I'm gonna try to do some research and trying to see how I can keep the mold off of the wood. So, but I've got to get them out because that smell is killing me. I can't do any woodworking out here with that smell. So, and what was really bad was the round cookies that I had cut. Those were molding up pretty bad. So those were the first ones to get out, and I just have a piece of tin roof sitting on top of them so they don't get wet. But I need to find out different ways of how to dry out wood. I've seen some guys just take spacers and separate them so the airflow would go in it, then just lay a piece of tin on top and let that sit for a couple of years and let it dry out. But I don't know if it's my garage or what, but it's not getting a good amount of heat or something because the mold's wanting to lynch to these pieces of wood that are still wet, which makes sense. So, hey guys, I'm not sure where I left off on the van process of like the brakes and stuff like that, because I was just going to do a simple brake pad job, and when I tried to put the pads in there, the rotors were too rusted out, and I pushed the caliper piston all the way in. I still couldn't get the pad in there. I banged it in there, and then the wheel wouldn't turn. And then I checked out all the wheel bearings. I found out how this two-wheel drive Chevrolet Express 3500 front end works. And I went ahead and I bought new front rotors and the wheel bearing. Here's the bearing here. This is the inner bearing, this is the outer bearing, the lock kind of like washer, and then you got your axle spindle. I don't know what it's called for the four-wheel drive, but it's basically like where you have your CV axle at, but you've got the nut there, so it just sits right there. So this is a two-wheel drive. I'm not used to working on two-wheel drives, but they are a lot simpler than four-wheel drives, I can tell you that. But I went ahead and disassembled everything, and there's the wheel speed sensor there. The new rotor, the old rotors, you can tell were warped. The inside of them look pretty good, and then the outside, you can tell the brakes of these rotors have seen better days. So I bought new ones, and then these were the old pads, which is why I was changing the pads. It's basically nothing left. And I'm not buying new calipers. The one on that side seemed to work perfectly fine, so when I push the piston in on this side, if that works out, then I don't need calipers. I do need ball joints and a lot of suspension work on this, but I wanted to tackle the brakes now that I'm driving it, and then I'm also hauling. I want to be safe with this van, so brakes it is. I didn't buy new wheel bearings. They checked out fine. I'm just going to clean them and then re-grease them. But I did buy new wheel bearing seals for the very inside that sits on that spindle there. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this up, but I know this is the spindle, but I don't know exactly what this is called. It is basically like the CV axle if you have a four-wheel drive, but it's got to be a name for it. If you know the name, leave it in the comments, and then I'll know exactly what it's called. You dig? All right, back on the brakes for the van. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but just take the pad and run it this side, the pad part, on a belt sander, and just sand, a slight, maybe like 1/8 of an inch, 1/16, whatever you want to do. Just leave it up there for a little while, sand it, and then put the pad in the caliper and see if you can slide it over the rotor. That's basically what I did, and everything's fine. So if you have an issue with your pads, put them on a belt sander. You need something kind of wide that evenly sands the pad at one time, and then you're good to go. All right, just finished the passenger side. So what I've got on the passenger side is a new rotor. Kept the same wheel bearings, just re-greased them. I cleaned them, then re-greased them. And I have a new wheel bearing seal on the back side. And then I have new rotors, new brake pads, and a new upper ball joint, which it still needs a whole lot of work, but I'm just repairing what needs to be done ASAP. So finally got everything squared on this side. That's the dome. And now I'm moving over to the driver's side. Don't know how much I'm gonna be able to get done because I've got a couple of cars coming to tent this afternoon. So, but this side, this is the upper ball joint, and it was pinned in, so it sat just like this, and that hole there was where they mounted the brake lines to, and that was a bolt and nut. But these were pins here, So I had to grind them off, and then I beat them out with a hammer from the right side, and it pulled it out like that. So that was very aggravating. That took me a good while. But unfortunately the driver's side is not the same. So that's a plus. This side, somebody has either replaced the upper L arm, or they did what I did where I had to grind these studs, and this is already holed in there. So now all I've got to do is just take these 4 13s out, and but before that I like to pop the ball joint out, then take these 13s out, and then I can put the new ball joint in. And then I have to grease them, and then I got to take this caliper off, set it to the side, take the rotor. Well, I got to take this cap off, take the wheel bearing nut out, take the rotor off, clean up the bearings, grease, put new rotors, put the pads, put them all on. And I think I torqued the wheel bearings to 5 foot-pounds. It's very, very light. And then I torqued the upper ball joint nut to 70 foot-pounds, and then these hand tighten, and then just give a quarter turn to them. So it's not a whole lot to do, but I don't know if this has been done for years, so it's very tedious and time of taking everything off. And if something's new for you, it's kind of rough in the beginning, but once you do it, you'll remember how to do it. At least that's how it is for me. Once I do something one time, like if I do this side, I know exactly how to do the other side, so it would take me half the time when I move to the other side.